Good morning, Speakeasy. It's Sunday. Um, I live alone, so this is actually the first time I've used my voice today. All right, so I wanted to tell a story for the prompt for 100% That Bitch Stories of Fierce Independence. And it was the subtitle that kind of grabbed me, but I think, maybe my twist on it is a little different. So I have this bucket list I still have a bucket list. But one of the things I did on my bucket list a couple years ago is that I wanted to see horseshoe crabs mating. I don't know if you guys know what horseshoe crabs are. I think there's like incredible, like 450 million year old creatures, and they often call them living fossils. And the pictures that I've seen of them mating on beaches are just extraordinary. Their beaches just covered in these crabs. And I thought, as a photographer, like, this is something that I both want to photograph and, as a nature lover, something that I just want to witness in my life. So when they mate, however, is kind of variable. It's not like they keep to some certain date of like, hey, we're going to do this on June 23rd every year. They instead, they're guided by the lunar calendar. And so they mate on like the new moon and the full moon in summer during high tide. And one of the places that they do it is in some bays in Delaware. So I check out the calendar, and finally this one year, like, I see that, one of the full moons is coming up and it's on a Friday, which is great because I can do, a long weekend, take the day off work and head out. So originally some people were going to come with me. Everybody sort of bailed. So it's just me. I've never camped alone, strangely enough, as independent as I am. Camping has always seemed like a communal thing, like the sitting around the fire and the telling of the stories and whatnot. But I grab all my camping gear, grab some food, throw it in the car, and I head out to Delaware. Get to this incredibly small, terrible campsite with like poison ivy and ticks, and I'm not super happy about it. I have this big 8-person tent because I like space inside to move around and store things and not be smashed. And I've put it up many times alone, but this time I was having a lot of problems. Like, the ground was uneven, the tent poles like weren't staying in their little spots, and so like as I would put it up on one side, it would fall down on the other, and so I could just hear like the Benny Hill music as I like scrambled from one side of the other to this falling tent to try and get it back up. And eventually, after about, like, I don't know, 15-20 minutes, I succeed. I get the tent up, to the laughter of like the campsite inhabitants 5 feet away from me, who did not help. But I get my tent up, and I go to blow up the air mattress that I have brought. The last time I had used the air mattress was in Kentucky's Red River Gorge, and we had left when it was pouring rain, and so we had just packed all the shit up, soaking wet in the car because there was no chance of packing it up well dry. But when we got home, we like dried it out. Well, clearly not well enough, because when I take this air mattress out, there's like a plastic side and a fabric side. And the fabric side is covered in this layer of mold. I'm like, oh no, so I flip it over, fabric side down. I've got some sheets with me, so I'm like, okay, no problem. I'll deal with this for the night. I'll sleep on the plastic side with the sheets. It'll be fine. I gotta get to the beach. High tide was that day going to be at something like 9:48. And the beach closes at 9, and I don't know if there's security or rangers at the beach, if I'm going to have to be sneaky and like ninja my way onto this place. So I want to get there a little early and just scope it out, see what I'm in for, make a plan. And it is, by the way, this is a hot weekend. It was one of those summer weekends where it was like anywhere from like 102 to 106, but with the humidity, it felt like 116. It was like sweltering. And sidebar, I have my skin is allergic to water, which I know makes no sense because I'm mostly made of water, but one of the side effects of this is that I'm even allergic. My skin is allergic to my own sweat, so when I get sweaty, I get hives, and it's itchy and miserable, and it sucks. So I'm itchy, and it's miserable, and it sucks, and I'm on this beach with all these like pebbles and biting insects, these sand flies. My first like walk down the beach, I'm just hounded by these bugs that are just biting the shit out of me. I'm like, this is intolerable. So I go back to my car and I put on a hoodie and some sleeves, and so I'm hotter than I was before, but at least like I'm getting some protection from these creatures. And so we'll jump forward a little. If eventually the full moon does rise above the ocean, and it's, you know, it's beautiful. It's reflected in the waters. It's also though way darker than I expected. And I have a headlamp and I have flashlights. But a couple things happen. One, so headlights are perfectly brilliant for like seeing in front of you. But they also attract bugs, and so they're only perfectly brilliant up until the point that it gets dark and the headlight suddenly attracts all the bugs in a 20-foot radius, like straight towards your fucking face. So I quickly find out, like, okay, headlamps are bad, you know, like I'm now getting attacked by millions, like just these swarms of bugs. They're coming straight at me and I'm freaking out. I don't mind the bug here or there, but like mass bugs, not cool. So I'm struggling. I'm trying to take pictures of these amazing creatures who are coming up slowly. There's not many. There's not like what I've seen in the documentaries, but there's some, and they're coming up out of the water and they're, you know, going to start to mate. And so I'm trying to photograph them. It's incredibly low light. I have low light lenses, but it is not cutting it. And so I need some external light. So I'm trying with like one flashlight, holding it here, and the camera, holding it here. And, it's not going well. Bugs are coming for me. I'm sweating. I am itchy. I have hives. And there's this full moon. And I suddenly like feel some wetness in my underwear. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not turned on. Like, I don't know what's going on. So like I run back to the car for another minute here. And, you know, as like a rationalist sort of scientific type, I felt like all my sort of more woo friends and pagan friends would have told me to expect this, but it was not time for my period. But here I am at like high tide with a full moon, and don't you know, like Mother Nature was like, we're gonna get shit started. So 1 week early, suddenly I'm on this beach in Delaware and my period has started, and I'm not prepared for this. I'm very timely, and you know, it's not my time, so I was not ready. So like, you know, grab some napkins from the car, shove them in my pants, and go back on the beach because, god damn it, I am going to photograph these horseshoe crabs. So I try. I get some. They're bad. It's miserable. I'm a period now. I'm just feeling really beaten down. Like I had this plan, I had this vision for how it was going to go. It's not going that way. So I'm like, all right, you know what, fuck it, like today is not great, I'll try this again tomorrow. But in the meantime, you know, I need to find a gas station, I need to get some lady supplies, and so I do that. I get to the gas station 5 minutes before it closes, thank God, like they closed at 11, and I make my way back to my campsite, nestle in, and then the mold comes to bite me because what's happening is that there is clearly some kind of slow leak going on in the air mattress. And so like every hour I wake up with my ass on the ground, and it's hard, and you know, there's pine tree roots and things, and so then I have to get up and, you know, fill the air mattress again. So like every hour, you know, I'm sure all my fellow campsites, you know, they hear the like of me doing the little air mattress blowy uppy thing. It was ridiculous. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, all right, new day. I grab a new air mattress from a store, so I'm good there. And I spent some time at the Delaware parks that day, looking at the oceans, walking around different spots. Again, it was still really hot, so I did not do the amount of hiking that I normally would have, because again, hives, sweat. But I, you know, enjoy the day well enough. I go back to the beach that night. And it's, the pictures are really disappointing. Like, there just weren't many crabs. I got them at the tail end of the mating season. But I do decide, like, I'm going to take some souvenirs of them because there are so many on the beach that are dead. but you know, it's like they have this hard shell and then, you know, the live crab bits. What I don't know is that, like, I don't know how to gut a crab. You know, I've never gutted a horseshoe crab before. I've never met a horseshoe crab before. This was my first experience, you know. And so I grab some in a black garbage bag, and I take them to my car, and I'm like, okay, I will, you know, deal with this later. Like, I don't want to be on the beach doing this. I think I'm a little afraid of people seeing me. Like, I guess I don't know if it's all right to do. So I take them back to my campsite. And they smell, they're dead. They smell like rotting ocean creature. You know, it's not good. And there are black bears in the area, at this site in Delaware they, you know, warn you about. And so I don't want to keep them by my campsite because I just don't want to be luring bears there. So I decide to leave them in my car, and then deal with them later. So what basically happened is that I drove back to Ohio with this smell of like rotting things in my car. It was awful. I had the windows open the entire time, which mine couldn't use the AC, but fuck it. But I get back to Ohio, and I figured it out how to gut them. It wasn't as bad as I thought. How to take out their live bits, and keep the other bits of them. So I'll go ahead and show you my little, here's a souvenir. Here's what, like, when I'm talking about horseshoe crabs, this is kind of what they look like here. These were the things I was going to see millions of on the beach, but I missed it. So I'm going to redo it sometime. I will have a better plan and better lighting, and I won't do it when it's so crazy hot. So I was glad I did it. I felt like it was an independent weekend for me. It was a very strange camping alone. But in this case, I think it was Mother Nature that was 100% that bitch, and she threw it all at me. But I stuck with it and persevered, and it's one thing kind of sort of marked off the bucket list. All right, I hope you guys are all well and hanging in there during these strange, isolating times. I miss you guys. Speak easy. All right, cheers.